Fantasy Freaks and Geeks. What's going on? James Go here with you. All right, it is a Wednesday, so it's going to be time for some sleepers, man. We're going to be hitting some quarterbacks and running back sleepers here. Before I do so, I just wanted to share some interesting stats that I found in regards to Deebo Samuel. If you've been watching Deebo, you may have noticed, like I have, that it just doesn't seem like the same kind of explosive player that he was before. He doesn't seem like that guy that's just breaking tackles all over the place and just taking house calls on a routine slant route, right? Like that was his signature. That was his calling card. I mean, when we're talking about the Yak Bros, that's what he's doing, right? I feel like we haven't seen that from Deebo Samuel a lot this year. So I wanted to dig into that. And what were we looking at? Again, what made Deebo Samuel so special was the fact that after the catch, this guy was an absolute dog. Man, he was an absolute beast after the catch. Are we seeing that this year? Well, I'm not that sure, because I tell you what, when you take a look and you dig in, I go back all the way to 2020, right? And I'm just taking a look at yards after the catch per reception, right? So we're taking a look at every single time he catches the ball. How many yards after the catch is he getting? In 2020, he peaked 12.3 yards after the catch per reception. And then it was in decline every single year. In 2020, it was 12.3, as I mentioned. In 2021, it was 10.4. In 2022, it was 9. In 2023, it was 8.87. This year, 8.0. Yards after the catch per reception. So it has been in a steady decline ever since 2020. And again, I just feel like we're not seeing that guy. 8 yards after the catch per reception, by the way, it's still good. It is still good. It's just not spectacular. It's just not great. And that right there, that's his signature. That's his calling card. We know that Deebo Samuel's not necessarily the crispest and the cleanest route runner out there. But what he can do with the ball after he catches it was truly special. And I just don't know if we're getting that special player here as we're talking about Deebo Samuel. All right. Anyways, we move on. Just wanted to share that little tidbit of a stat there that I found very, very interesting. But let's get you to your sleepers. That's why you're here. That's why you come to the Sleeper King. By the way, my full sleeper list, it's not out yet, but when it does come out, it will, of course, be on the website, sleeperkingfootball.com. Again, I'm still compiling here. So we've got quarterbacks and running backs for today. And any of my subscribers will tell you, man, sleeper list is extensive. 17 to 20 sleepers of all levels. It don't matter how competitive your leagues, I'm going to find you a guy. Anyways, we move on. Okay, let's talk about Geno Smith taking on Arizona. He's my favorite sleeper quarterback of the week. And shoot, I know there are some folks out there playing in competitive 12-team leagues like, this dude's not a sleeper. Listen, yes, he is. Okay, he ranks outside the top 20 fantasy quarterbacks right now. So yes, he absolutely qualifies as a sleeper. He's taking on Arizona. The Cardinals forced the third lowest quarterback pressure rate while also being bottom 10 in pass yards and completion rate allowed. Bottom 10 in pass yards and completion rate allowed. That is so important because what does Geno do right now? He's tossing the ball all over the yard. He's just not getting touchdowns, right? And he's also completing, the football at a very high rate. So these are two skills that he does very well, taking on a team that is, again, not defending the pass all that well, right? So, again, when you look at the matchup versus what he does good, I mean, shoot, he's got a real opportunity here to put up a nice number. Geno has not been spectacular, but he has been rock solid. He has scored 15-plus fantasy points in 5 of his last 7 games. If he is available, if he's out there, I like him a lot this week. I don't have my rankings officially done, but I got to imagine, man, when I punch up all these numbers, man, I have to imagine Geno Smith is going to be a top 12 ranked fantasy quarterback this week. All right, if you need a little bit of a deeper sleeper, how about Caleb Williams versus Minnesota? The Vikings give up the 5th most pass yards per game. And really, honestly, any halfway decent quarterback has been pretty productive against this gambling style defense that Brian Flores is deploying there in Minnesota. 5 of the last 7 quarterbacks to play Minnesota, they have either scored 15 fantasy points, with 4 of those tossing 2+ touchdowns. So the only quarterbacks to either not, throw 2 touchdowns or score 15 points, Mac Jones and Joe Flacco. That's it. That's it when we're talking about the last 7 quarterbacks the Vikings have faced, right? If you're looking at FPA and you're saying to yourself, wow, Minnesota's pretty good in terms of the FPA, I get it. Understand that they have shut down guys like Mac Jones and shut down guys like Joe Flacco. That's helped their overall FPA numbers considerably. But again, if you take a look at, the other guys that they have faced, they've been extraordinarily productive, So again, I'm not all that worried about it. And shoot, you know what? I'll even look it up for you guys right now. Okay. I'll list off the quarterbacks that have gone off on Minnesota. Well, Will Levis had a solid game. Okay. 295 through the air with a touchdown. Ended up giving you 15 fantasy points there, right? But we're talking about Matt Stafford. He dropped a huge game, 25 spot there. He had 4 touchdowns in that ball game. Jared Goff had 2 touchdowns with a 22 spot. Aaron Rodgers had 2 touchdowns. Now he did have 3 interceptions, which drove his score down quite a bit. But overall 2 touchdowns there. And then we saw Jordan Love, huge game, 4 touchdowns. Overall for him as well. So again, a lot of different quarterbacks have done pretty well from a fantasy perspective against Minnesota. So yeah, man, I really like Caleb Williams. By the way, I thought we saw a different Caleb Williams in week 11 with the coordinator change. So I like where this is trending. He's trending up. Minnesota's obviously a very gambling style defense. Are they going to get home? For sure. Listen, both things can be true. I think Caleb can put up a good number. And you know what? I think Minnesota's defense can actually put up a good number. I do think that they're going to get a number of sacks. I do think that they will get at least 1 turnover. I think Minnesota's defense is in a pretty good spot too. I just like Caleb Williams to put up yards and a couple of touchdowns against this Minnesota defense. If you are in the absolute, you got to be you're in a super flex. You are desperate. You're desperate. 6 teams on a bye. Maybe you've got a lot of injuries, man. I don't know. Tommy DeVito versus Tampa Bay. Let's go, Tommy Cutlets. Break in case of emergency only. We're talking about Tommy Cutlets here. Okay. I don't think anyone loves Tommy Cutlets. We love the swagger and we love the thought. We love the character of Tommy Cutlets. But from a fantasy perspective, from a real life perspective, I don't think anyone loves Tommy Cutlets, but I understand. That being said, Tampa Bay, they're giving up the most fantasy points per game to quarterbacks this year. You couldn't ask for a softer landing spot for Tommy DeVito. You know what I mean? So this Buccaneers defense, they've given up 20 plus fantasy points in 5 of their last 6 games. 20 plus in 5 of their last 6. That is insane. That is crazy. So yes, it's a wonderful spot here for Tommy DeVito. I know. Okay, I get it. Okay. What was this? Spencer Rattler, by the way, was the only signal caller to fail to crack 20. I just had to look that up very quickly. Okay, let's talk about running backs here. This is the bread and butter. Everyone needs running backs right now with 6 teams on a bye and, whatever, productivity issues and injury issues. Running back is the hardest to fill. I'm going to start you here with Rico Dowdle against Washington. He's not available, most likely, but if you've got him on the bench, I think I'm okay starting him this week against Washington. The Commanders have given up the second most rush yards to opposing backs, and they've done so quite efficiently as well. 5.1 yards per carry allowed to that position group. That's the second worst mark in the NFL. The Commanders are dead last in explosive run rate allowed. I think the Cowboys would be very smart, to lean heavily on the run game in this matchup. Take the air out of the ball, slow the game down, keep the game close. That's the only way the Cowboys have a real shot at winning this football game. They got to just be hanging around, man. If they start tossing this ball all over the yard, Washington's going to put a big number on them. Okay, that being said, even if the game does get out of hand, this is why I like Rico Dowdle. You're going to be able to get a lot of these garbage time checkdowns. In Dowdle's last 4 games, all losses, obviously, he has averaged a strong 5 targets per game. That is really good. By the way, Dowdle, in his first 5 games, averaged just 2.8 targets per game. So he has been an integral part of the passing attack over the last 4 games, as you can imagine. And I would expect them to lean on him again here in against the Washington Commanders, who, again, it's a great matchup on the ground, but even if they've got to check down, it's all good. I think the Cowboys can get it done, and I think Rico Dowdle can get it done in fantasy. All right, Bucky Irving versus New York. Again, I know he's not available. I get it. I'm just saying he's a sleeper. Okay, the Giants have arguably the worst run defense in the NFL, 5.15 yards per carry allowed. That ranks dead last, while the explosive run rate allowed ranks as second worst as well. When you add it all up, okay, the Giants have given up the second most total yards to the running back position. Now, I get it. Bucky Irving, not available on the waiver wire. But if he's on your bench, fire him the hell up. It's an absolute smash spot for the Winter Soldier this week. I really like Bucky Irving. Again, I haven't done my rankings, but shoot, man, if this guy's not a top 15 running back, I'd be shocked. Would be shocked. Okay, I'm going to stay in the same game. I actually like Devin Singletary. Now, this is a guy that may be available. Okay, waivers haven't run when I'm recording this right now, but as of Tuesday night, more than 50% available in Yahoo League, so he may be available. We'll see. In the 5 games where DeVito has played at least 90% of the snaps, the Giants fed 5.8 targets per game to running backs. That's a lot. That is a lot. Okay, so overall, if Devin Singletary can take home 3 targets in this game, that's not bad. That now we're talking about potentially 3 grabs for 30 yards, maybe 25 yards, and then we just build from there. Again, 6 teams on a bye. I got to throw guys out there that maybe I'm not that comfortable with when there's no teams on a bye, but this could certainly help your squad here if Devin Singletary, you have Devin Singletary, or you can pick up Devin Singletary. Again, pretty good matchup against Tampa Bay. Now, I bring up the passing numbers. Why? This is a very important aspect, okay? Because the Bucs give up the 3rd most receptions and the most receiving yards to opposing running backs. Devin Singletary is a natural pass catcher, guys. I think he can actually, again, really sting Tampa Bay out of the backfield as a pass catcher. Let's see if the Giants and Tommy DeVito do lean on Devin Singletary and, of course, Tyrone Tracy as well. Tyrone Tracy is in a great spot too, man. I'm just saying. If we're talking about sleepers now, Devin Singletary, again, as of Tuesday night, more than 50% available. Let's make it work. Trey Benson versus Seattle. Now, this is a true, you may be able to pick this dude up, okay? The Hawks have been a relatively soft versus the run. They've given up the 3rd most rush yards per game, 4.99 yards per carry allowed. That's 4th worst in the NFL. Look, we know Trey Benson is an explosive athlete, but he has not been given any runway to really take off, right? That has changed a little bit recently. I talked about him in the previous episode, talking about who to pick up off the waiver wire. If you're smart, you listen to the Sleeper King, you picked up Trey Benson, okay? You want to fire him up. But I want to talk about his volume overall, just in case you missed that episode. How dare you miss that episode? How dare you not listen to me all day long? How dare you? No, but look, 18 carries the last 2 weeks. Okay, 18 carries. That's 9 per game. That's fine. Okay. In his previous 6 games combined, he had 17. His 3 targets the last 2 weeks. Again, not a huge target total, but he's got 3 over his last 2 weeks. That was more than all of his previous games combined, when he had 2 targets the other rest of the season. Okay. So he is seeing a significant uptick in usage over the last 2 weeks. Can they keep that going in a really good spot against Seattle? The fact that Seattle is so soft, I mean, again, 4.99 yards per carry allowed. If Trey Benson gets 3 series, he could do some serious damage. He could do some serious damage. And again, we're talking about a player with great breakaway speed. This guy's an explosive athlete. I would not be surprised if he was able to take one for a big chunk gain. Shoot, hopefully a house call. That'd be great. I'm running Trey Benson out there in a couple different spots, man, where I need something. I need anything from the running back position. Let's go. Trey Benson. Okay, 2 more here for you. Cam Akers versus Chicago. Again, this is a player that should be pretty widely available, more than 50% availability, I would imagine. Here, as you're listening to me on a Wednesday, last week with Aaron Jones somewhat banged up. I know he was off the injury report, but let's be real. He had to have been a little banged up. Akers played 37% of the offensive snaps. That, my friends, is a Minnesota season high for him. And over the last 2 weeks, Akers has seen 13 and 10 carries respectively. Again, with Aaron Jones somewhat banged up. I get it. Now, 13 and 10 carries respectively, it's not a huge number, but my God, with apocalypse here on our doorstep, if you're grasping for straws, I like Akers to provide some kind of floor. If he can play 35, shoot, maybe 40% of the offensive snaps, I don't hate it. I do not hate it against Chicago. Chicago is strong defensively, but Cam Akers, again, in this system, outside zone run scheme, look, Minnesota's got a pretty darn good offense too. I think there's going to be some touchdown exposure. Okay, this is the last one. And I know this guy's available. Come on now. Amir Abdullah taking on Denver. Now, when I bring up Amir Abdullah, understand one thing. Health is obviously a big factor here. Not for Amir Abdullah, but for the other players in this backfield. Alexander Mattison, he hurt his ankle. Zamir White, he hurt his quad in week 11. Okay, that left Amir Abdullah as the team's only healthy running back. Dylan Lobby was a healthy scratch. If you don't know anything about Dylan Lobby, I don't blame you, okay? Raiders right now, completely irrelevant. Lobby went to a very small school, was a super late round draft pick. I don't even know if he was drafted. He might have been a priority free agent. I'm not sure. Either way, small school kid, athletic measurements, not that good, but he's a fantastic pass catcher. I don't think Madison and Zamir White are going to be missing, but if they're both missing, then we can throw Dylan Lobby into this mix as well. If only one player is missing, Amir Abdullah does enter the fray. So I'm interested in Amir Abdullah, and I'll explain why. Because the Broncos have been stifling on the ground. I get it. They're good. Great defense. Okay. But they have given up the 4th most receptions and the 5th most receiving yards to running backs this year. You would think that pairs very nicely with the pass catching chops and role that Amir Abdullah holds on this team. I'm anticipating Denver, because they've been playing really good football, to build a nice lead against Las Vegas. If that's the case, I could see this team, and again, if Madison and or Zamir White, if either one is banged up and not playing in this game, I could see Amir Abdullah getting some touches and really getting some looks out of the backfield, which I think would be very important. He could be a little sneaky PPR pickup. Let me just put it to you that way. Now, keep a close eye on this. I'm saying Amir Abdullah because I think Antonio Pierce doesn't want to mess around with young players. I think he's just, he's an old school defensive player. He's going to lean on some veterans. By the way, they're tired of losing games. Okay, you think he wants to experiment with Dylan Lobby right now? I don't think so. I could be wrong, though. This team could be in exploratory mode where they're like, hey, man, let's just see what we got in the young guys. Amir Abdullah is over 30. I think he's 32 years old. He's obviously not part of this team's future plans, but I think Antonio Pierce doesn't want to lose any more games, man. That's why I think Amir Abdullah is going to get a lot of work here. Again, if Madison and or Zamir White end up missing time here. So anyways, keep an eye on those practice reports, but that's where we're at. Anyways, we got to go, man. I appreciate everyone listening. And if you're still with me, man, if you would subscribe, rate, I just need y'all to rate the podcast, subscribe to the podcast, man. That would be very, very helpful. Anyways, we got to go. Tomorrow, it's all about wide receiver and tight end sleepers. We got to go. But remember, it's never too late to chase your dreams. Peace.